restructuring that Nigerians are in need of, or is it a restructuring of institutions or restructuring of powers of institution so that we can keep the country on track? Just a few days ago, the president retired the service chiefs and immediately appointed new ones. Still harping on restructuring, whether mental restructuring or institutional or restructuring of powers. How did you meet the action of the president?
Well, I have seen supporters, I've read supporters of the president coming out to commend him for the sack of the service chiefs. I don't think there is anything new in what the president has done. It is conventional that when you come in to an office, you need to put your team together. You know, you need to pick people you want to work with and people you believe will deliver on your vision. So there's nothing new. What is worrisome, however, is the case of sack and arrest. Sack and arrest. For instance, when Emefiele was relieved of his appointment, you know, howbeit it came up under the guise of suspension, which is alien to the CBN Establishment Act. And immediately he was arrested by DSS officials. Now, ditto for Bauer, the chairman of EFCC. He was also sacked. I was invited by the DSS. Until date, he's still with the DSS. I find it worrisome that an institution established by law for the protection of national integrity against terrorist act or any other criminal act has descended to an abysmal low that it is involved in crime fighting, which is outside the purview of the enactment, you know, that's giving birth to the Directorate of State Security. So when you now talk about the mental institutional restructuring, can you say that is part of the institutional restructuring? My answer is no. You are further weakening the institutions of state when you compel for whatever reason an institution of state to act ultra virus, then you are weakening that institution. So like I said, there is nothing new about the sack, or if I may borrow your word, the retirement, but it's a sack of the service chief. I read in one of the dailies that the acting inspector general said I feel aroused like a lion.
We'll come to that. We'll take a critical look at that in particular. Let me come to you, Ekwere, to also ask you what is your take on the new appointment of security chiefs across the country before we get to the mandate constitutionally provided for them, how effective they're going to discharge their responsibility. Let me just ask you how you felt.
Yeah, you see, just like Sammy said, somehow it is what everybody that comes into power does in Nigeria. And in fact, anywhere in the world, but our own is very peculiar because we always behave as if it's like a state capture. When you capture a territory and then you start removing this and putting in your men. The only difference in this situation is that he has done something that most of us are reasonably happy with, in the sense that he has distributed these offices across the country, which is supposed to be, I think it is constitutional, that you need to spread the different offices to the different areas of the country. He thought of, before he came into office, you saw what President Buhari did. Most of the service chiefs, any military security apparatus, was headed by a not Muslim and a not Muslim, simply. We only had the chief of defense staff that does not actually command an army that came from the south. The rest came from the north. It was after one Northerner, after one Northerner, one Muslim, after one Muslim. And that is what we saw. And then it created that sense of alienation across the country. And we know the implications of all those things. But outside that, this idea of, we have not moved forward. I mean, I'm very shocked that you have the same party, not even another party, the same party. And you see, you were the person, I mean, behind.
How do you mean when you say the same party?
The same party, APC, succeeding an APC administration. And yet you suspend or remove a particular person, and the next thing the man is in detention. I'm very shocked. I mean, I wonder if it was
is it about party affairs, or is it it is about what the person had done? Should someone be shelved from the arms of the law just because of party affiliation?
No, I do believe that Mr. President Tinubu had a hand in the government that just passed. You know, from bringing that government into power, sustaining it in power, and putting in men. Making,
but he did not control the affairs of men.
Well, certainly he could have, because we know the way, I mean, if you study his politics, we know the way he controls things in politics. Look at what is happening in Lagos State. So I am very surprised that these people were just, I mean, they were working for the man you put in power, and you had influence in that government. How come that the man just stepped aside and every single person is under detention in most of the key positions? I'm even surprised that Malami is not detained or invited by the
Attorney General.
Yes, I'm very, very surprised, because I expected him to have been one of those to be detained by now, going by the way.
Well, gentlemen, we'll come back to that particular issue. Let's meet the newly appointed service chief. We have the National Security Advisor, who is Malam Nuhu Ribadu. We have Major General C.G. Musa, the Chief of Defense Staff. We have Major General T.A. Lakmaja, the Chief of Army Staff. And we have Rear Admiral E.A. Ogala, who is the Chief of Naval Staff. We have HB Abubakar, the Chief of A Staff. We have DIG Ekmetuku, the Inspector, who is the Acting Inspector General of Police. And finally, we have the Chief of our Defense Staff, being Major General Ekpa Undiadeye. Whether I have pronounced that so well. Gentlemen, let's begin, so to speak, from the National Security Advisor. Don't forget that before now, the President had appointed him, that is Malam Nuhu Ribadu, as a special advisor on security. Now, a few days later, he now made him the National Security Advisor. Whereas some Nigerians were thinking that there is going to be a conflict of interest between his special advisor on security and the office of the National Security Advisor. Unfortunately, we've just seen him taking him up to the position of the National Security Advisor. You want to comment on that, Samitu? Is it because he has perceived that there is that possibility of conflict of interest?
I don't think it's because it's the proper thing that he has done. I think he would have been the first president that will now introduce the Office of Special Advisor on Security, which will contradict or conflict with that of the National Security Advisor. Don't forget that the National Security Advisor, just like the service chief, hold these offices at the pleasure of the president and reports to him.
What's the function of the National Security Advisor?
The National Security Advisor coordinates the security of the country.
Okay.
And reports and briefs the president. Don't forget that the president, by virtue of his office, is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And he is the chief security officer of the geographical contraption called Nigeria. So he would delegate, get experts to run each unit, and that's what he has done. And all the service chief will now report to Nuhu Ribadu, who automatically reports to the president. So he coordinates the security. Now the question will be, do you think he is qualified?
I just wanted you to land before we get to that step to ask the question. Let's meet Nuhu Ribadu, his antecedents, his personnel, and align that with the office given to him. But we'll come to that. Let me ask you again. Some Nigerians are believing that if Mr. President had allowed the special advisor on security, that office to still remain, that it would have been complementary to the extent that when service chief will come to tell him, look, this is what is happening, this is what is happening, he needs a confidant to say, please go ahead, confirm this, because it appears that what is said to the president in most cases may not be reality. You have cases where security chiefs will come to say, we are in charge, but yet we still have a crisis, pockets of crisis across the country. Do you think that the president should still sustain the office of the special advisor on security?
Well, I don't see the need, because I wouldn't call it conflict. It all depends on the leadership style of Mr. President. But you see, the office of the NSA is like a desk officer. He's the one who synchronizes all the security agencies, brings them together, make them work together. Each of them are working separately, but they report to his office. He coordinates. He's like a desk officer. When everything lands on him, he's the one who's going to make sense of what they have brought and take it to the president. Well, if the president feels that, look, I still need to have a special advisor on security, all well and good, but within the office of the NSA, the National Security Advisor, you have a team. He doesn't work alone. It's a very big office. You have a team. Remember, the former NSA was he had so much that I think they spent about 3 billion in just cleaning his office in a year. That shows you how big the office was. So
is it when you say how big, is it the space they occupy?
A lot of persons.
Or the function assigned to him.
Yeah, the functions. Well, and you see, he doesn't work alone. He works with a team. So it would have been to some certain extent a duplication of duty, because what really would the special advisor do that a national security advisor will not do it? I mean, it's virtually the same thing, So though they could be different, because the NSA has some level of executive power that the special advisor may not have. So it all depends. It boils down to the style of the president. How does he want to run his government? If he feels it is necessary, if he feels the insecurity in the country is so much that he needs to have a second opinion, fine, well and fine. But I think he has done the right thing by just maintaining, streamlining this thing, because too many advisors, too many cooks can spoil the.
All right, Advisor Sami, let's come to you. Let's meet Malam Nuhu Ribadu as National Security Advisor. He's the person who, the first chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Some persons have lauded the appointment. Some have come to say that appointment doesn't sit squarely on his shoulder. Let's have your take on this.
Well, I think I'll align myself. Let us look at the tenure of Nuhu Ribadu as chairman of EFCC. The EFCC was a good idea to fight financial crime, but unfortunately the pilots of the affairs of the EFCC had ended up being more politicians than the political appointers. And he is unfortunately one of them too. Then also forget that he retired as, I think, an assistant commissioner of police or deputy commissioner of police, one of those, positions. And the question is he imbued with the training and experience to drive the security of a country like this? Before now, we have had lieutenant generals, we have had retired generals as national security advisors. Do you think a deputy commissioner of police has imbued or garnered the experience for that office? Don't forget that the police is a restrictive security agency. That is it. But when you talk about a national security advisor, he must be based, he must be versed in the affairs of the Nigerian Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the DMI, the State Security Service.
He's just going to coordinate. His responsibility is to coordinate.
You cannot coordinate what you don't know. That's the problem we have. In Nigeria, all of us are football coaches. When there is a match,
except me,
between the Super Eagles, just like we had the Super Eagles and Sierra Leone, we say, no, if you had brought in this person, why Musa no stand here? If he stand here, they would have crossed it.
If a man has
it is easier for you to sit out and discuss, just like we are sitting. This is an academic voyage, but when it comes to the nitty-gritty, you will find out that we lack the experience. So that's my take. That you may appoint. Don't also forget that this man has been disconnected. He now went into full-fledged politics. When he contested for the governor of Adamawa State, and even contested for the presidency. He's a card-carrying member of a political party. So the objectivity will no longer be there.
I'll come back to you still on that. Let me come to you. This is a man, if you've read his story, this is a man who started with nothing to get EFCC to the level it was. Now, if talking about EFCC, of all the chairman of that institution or agency, whatever you may, he's about the only, or about two of them who have not been booted out of office for one corruption or the other allegation. He came in, so to speak, clean and left clean. And we have people like El-Rufai congratulate him for his capacity. Again, I still ask you, what would you think? What's your opinion? You think that having garnered experience, pursued top political office holders for corrupt practices, you think he wouldn't have the grace, or he did not interfere sufficiently with people to give him an edge in occupying that office?
You see, I always respect Nuhu Ribadu.
I hope you won't. I won't.
No, I won't. I will not.
Let's hear.
Yes, I respect him. One of the best trained policemen in Nigeria today. I mean, former policeman, or whatever. You understand me? He has gone through so many of the courses. He has been trained outside this country on security matters, and within Nigeria, he has garnered so much experience. He left office. Till today, I've not seen a better EFCC chairman than that man. He was the best. I think it was just politics that got him out of that place. It wasn't because he did bad. I know he was being targeted at the time, if you can remember. So I think he is, to me, his politics is actually going to be helpful in this office. His voyage into politics. He has tried to contesting for presidency. He has tried contesting for the governorship of Adamawa State, and he has been very close to the powerful men in power. I don't think it's just in politics alone. I think big men in security, both past and present, he has been very close to them. So I do believe that man will make a very, in fact, knowing him, I mean, from outside looking in, I don't know him close up. Knowing him, the way he manages his affairs, you may likely see the best national security advisor in recent times. I mean, I know the way he managed EFCC, if it takes that kind of, I know years pass, people change, but I do believe he's a better person than he was in those days. He's going to manage his affairs far more better than he did. Look at Mr. President. Even Bode just said the other time that he's starting doing better at this initial stage than he did as a governor of Lagos, and I agree with him to a certain level, even though I have so many things I disagree with the approach. Now, you understand me, but I do believe that Nuhu Ribadu would make a very good national security, one of the best. I tell you, it's one of the best materials we have in this country. I have so much confidence in him.
All right, Sametu, let's get to Louis' house. Sametu, let's get to Louis' house and see what is actually happening there. The head of that house is saying that he is inspired. In fact, he is urging to come out and walk. And on the spate of several of these issues in altercation between civilians and police, one killed a lawyer in Lagos State. I think the matter is still on trial on a Sunday, and several other issues. He's no longer the acting Inspector General of Police. I think he has been confirmed. Acting Inspector General of Police, the Inspector General of Police. He's saying that he feels like a lion. That's how he's feeling. To go, I hope he wants to devour crime and criminals and not innocent citizens. Let's have your take on the Inspector General of Police.
You know, the use of metaphor has always been the pastime of new political appointees.
Yes, you're right.
On a radio program, a caller,
You think he's not feeling like a lion?
No, I have called. I was asked that the president, that some people are saying within 7 days of the administration of the president and the governor of Akwa Ibom State, that they've not hit the ground running. I asked my interviewer, I said, where are they running to? Where are you? Why are you lying like a lion? You know, you have been in the force. You have been in the force, and you have risen to the position of the DIG.
Yeah.
What has been your impact?
Certainly.
Because if you have impacted positively on the force, you would have been celebrated. We had a police officer here in Akwa Ibom State. I think Itam.
Yeah, that was decorated.
He's now an ACP.
ACP.
I think Francis Irabo.
Irabo.
He was celebrated all over the country.
Yes.
That is somebody that's impacted. You don't come and tell us if you are shouting like you are roaring like a lion, you feel like devouring. Even if you are acting like a mosquito, it is immaterial, sir. What we want is get the job done. No insurance. Spare us, so that at the end of the day we will say, oh, he came, he fought like a lion. I recall when the Tafa Balogun was the Inspector General of Police, and the notorious
Operation Thunder.
Yes, and the notorious armed robber, you know, what was that his name? Shino Rambo, that terrorized the Semeboda route, was arrested. People stood up at the House of Assembly, Lagos State, and commended him. That Tafa means arrow. The Yorubas call arrow offer. So he is Tafa. So he struck like an arrow. I say, what? Look at what we have reduced our legislative chambers to. A theater of the absurd.
But you think it's not good to commend, or wasn't it commendable?
Yes, sir.
That we
for one act, you know, or your self-adulation. It's not. Do the work. When you do the work, Nigerians are very good people. I'll still take you to football. Football, when we play well, we will be commended.
Yes.
So if you play well consistently, you will be commended. Like our local team, the Akwa United, they played well and they became the champion. They were commended.
Yes.
Now that they are, we don't even know their position at the moment. Nobody thinks of them. So when you do it well, we will commend you. You don't come and tell us, sir, everybody mama soup, they sweet until you test them.
Otego, I don't know if your mother's soup is as sweet as mine, but let me ask you, wouldn't I praise my mother for giving me a better soup, a sweet soup? And now
that's because you just tested that soup.
Now, the person who is at the helm of affairs of the Nigerian police, just appointed, is coming to say that he feels like a lion, urging his people that it's no longer play as usual, that he will go out for crimes. And even at that, he has also warned that this is the time to practice in the force or within the force professionally. Don't forget the issue, we had the NSAS and several other issues. I want you to just take a bite on the position of the Inspector General of Police.
I think I took a look and I read some brief biography of the man, his antecedents in the force, and I think he was a CSO to the current president. I think his position is simply due. No, I don't think it is on merit. I think it's simply due to association, closeness. Certainly, the man should appoint somebody he's familiar with. But Egbeto Kun does not.
I wouldn't just believe it is due based on affiliation. Don't you think he also merited?
Well, going by what he's saying currently, and going by his immediate antecedent, I mean, remember the role he played during the election. There were certain very wrong statements he made. Some people could say it is what do you call it, tribalistic or something like this, or xenophobic. I don't think you use xenophobia when you're talking about the same race. But he said some things against the opposition, tribal statements that were wrong. I think he was posted to Port Harcourt or something like that during the election, and he didn't do that well from all indication. I think he's going to perform worse than the man he has just replaced. The man he replaced was trying to restructure the police. Remember, police were not even careful how they relate to people on the street.
We've had several
dismissals under the immediate past Inspector General of Police, and I don't think this man will do the same thing. And going by the statement he has just said, I mean, he's playing to the gallery, roaring like a lion. I hope it's not going to be against the opposition parties, or when people demonstrate against the policies of government. I hope he's not going to roar against them. He's going to roar against criminals. People are truly criminals, not people are being arrested at will, just perceived as criminals. I hope that's what he's going to do. But I don't see him as somebody who is going to handle the internal security of this country as well as even the man he has replaced. To me, he's not the best fit for that.
We'll just give him that benefit of doubt. We'll give him that benefit of doubt. Gentlemen, as we round off this particular issue and just take a bite on something else, let me ask us, General, but let me begin with you, Sammy, too. Looking at the names we've just mentioned, the National Security Advisor, Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, and several other security chiefs. What are your expectations, or should I rather say, what is your expectation of the security of the country in the nearest future, or even where the next 4 years?
You seem not to have known my positions on this thing. I don't expect
I know your position.
I don't
once at a time.
Yes.
When you mention, that's when I know. So let me know your position.
I don't expect anything different from what has been happening.
You're still expecting?
I don't expect. So I cannot be disappointed. The last 8 years, we had a situation where the candidate Buhari, the candidate Buhari addressed a campaign rally in Ogun State, and the Tinubu, who was then a strong chieftain of the APC, while addressing the crowd, he said when Britain was at war, he needed a general. He mentioned several countries. That now that Nigeria is at war, that we have a general in the person of Muhammadu Buhari, candidate there.
And the president, and the very past president, I'm sorry, cut you short, has come to, before he left, he said he has done well.
Yes, my position on that was simply, he is just like the proverbial Agama lizard that fell off an Iroko tree. And if Samuel took an objective Nigeria does not commend him, he will commend himself. And I will not deny him. It will be uncharitable for me to deny him his right to commend himself. You get it? So candidate Buhari came and we jumped from fry pan to fire.
No, you wouldn't say
and
that.
That is my, no, just like he commended himself. That is my position, Basi. Nigeria has never been as divided as we are. I have had invitations to several critical meetings outside Akwa Ibom State.
How would you say?
In the southeast, Ambassi, I have refused to go. The southeast, I have refused to cross.
The president is not the governor.
To cross Obolokara.
Yeah. Southeast.
He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Basi. Just yesterday, I read some vandals got into a community in the north and killed about 11 people. We have never had it this worse.
And it's not President Buhari that is on seat.
Good. That's why I'm saying that. So when you say expectation, the expectations were high. In fact, we got a situation where I think the first 3 days after his inauguration, we had power supply. And one of the supporters came and said that it is the body language of the president. And I said, is a body language like a perfume? You know? No, if it's like an Arabian or French deodorant, you will now say, okay, the body language is what is sending the signal. At the end of the day, just like our epileptic power supply, the body language failed. And we are in a state. So when you now ask me, what is your expectation? I said, I believe that when you don't expect, you will not be disappointed.
Simon, I hope that you will expect, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed.
Expect
what again? Coming to you, yeah. What are your expectations? Perhaps would you also mention that during this era we will see cordiality between the security agents. We always have one fighting the other, like what we had the EFCC and the DSS. We've always had the army and the police. Do you think that this time around the story is going to be different?
Well, you see, to some certain extent, I would say that, like Bishop Oyedepo said, whoever wins, he's going to be better than Buhari. That's what the man said. And certainly, yes, certainly we have something a little better at that. But you see, when you look at when President Tinubu was sworn in, there was something. One indicator was watching throughout. I was watching the naira to the dollar. Because if the red man,
change.
Yes, it didn't change. In fact, okay, it has changed. Now, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we have 1 naira to I think $815, $1 to 815 naira. That's the exchange rate. That's the worst we have ever had. It shows you that even Nigerians are not expecting much from this current government. Because the first thing we would have noticed is that the confidence in his government would have brought down the dollar. I mean, the naira would have appreciated and the dollar would have depreciated, but we didn't see that. That is one thing. And I tell you this, the man, and he's going to do a lot better than President Buhari, I tell you that. But in a lot of things, I don't think we should expect much, because the cost of living is going to be extremely high. A man is simply a sum total of his experience. I look at Lagos when he came into power. One thing you're going to see is that we are going to have a high raise, we're going to raise a lot of income, and that will be taxing the people. this is what Nigerians should expect. That is what happened in Lagos. When I visit Lagos, the guys will complain that, look, we are paying too many taxes, too high taxes. And that is what we are seeing. You have seen the removal of a so-called fuel subsidy, quote and unquote. You have seen the government said the federal government is not going to subsidize education anymore in the tertiary institution. You have seen the removal of power by 1st of July.
We'll come to all those ones.
It's taking effect. You know, so when you look at those three things, it's going to hit Nigerians so hard. On 1st of July, the tariff, the new tariff on power is setting in.
Okay, since you've mentioned that, on security architecture of the country, we hope that Nigerians are expecting quite high, and it is our hope that the increase in insecurity that had been and that it is will be reduced as these men get to work. Not when someone or a service chief is asked to go to a particular place, he would refuse to go, as we had at the last administration. Now, talking more on what is happening in the country this time around, let's see the standard of living of Nigerians vis-a-vis the several policies that is thrown out by the federal government. We hit the first one going that the 1st of July, the federal government has stated clearly that they are going to remove the call it subsidy, and to that extent there is that possibility of a hike in the tariff of power. Well, NLC have actually waded in to ask the federal government not to do that until certain measures are put in place. My focus, well, you started the talk, so let's get to you before I get to Sammy Eto, whether he would prefer to use a generating set while the increment is on, or he would beg the federal government not to. Let's have you.
Yeah, you see, that